All right, let's take a look at natural resources and what the United States had in terms of natural resources. So, the causes of the Industrial Revolution, we did have a large supply of natural resources. It isn't often talked about, but in Britain, they had a lot of machines that fueled their industrialization. A lot of entrepreneurs, businessmen put together machines, made factories, yada, yada, yada. And American entrepreneurs or businessmen went over to Britain to see what they looked like. And since they were so simply put together, it's not like you're checking out a microchip or something like that. But since they were so easily put together, you could just visually look at it and kind of get a sense of how it worked, go home and build it yourself. And then you have new inventions. You have stuff as stupid simple as a steel plow. Or in Britain, they had a seed drill, which was this kind of wheelbarrow-looking thing, and it plugged seeds in the ground and covered it back up. And then you get into more complicated stuff like the light bulb and telephone and things like that. You also have a rise in demand, which came from the cities. So people are working in these factories in the cities, and eventually they're able to save up money and they go looking for products to buy, like a new shirt or new pair of pants or something like that. One resource we had in abundance is oil, and we still do have a lot of oil. So you have Drake's steam engine drill, and what that did is you have the steam engine, and he hooked it up to a drill, drills into the ground. How do you know where to drill? In Texas, they had what's called natural seepage, so the oil would kind of bubble up out of the ground. And if it's bubbling up out of the ground, there's probably more to be had. So you drill in that area. And what you do is you set up kind of this, and I'll show you a picture. It's kind of a steep little pyramid-looking oil rig, and you pump water into the hole. And since oil floats on water, if you pressurize the hole with water, the oil is going to come out. So you basically replace, you replace the oil in there with water. And the first thing we were after when it came to oil was, well, you had grease for machines, but also we were after kerosene. You had kerosene lamps, and kerosene is highly flammable. So you had it has like a small bottom, and then you kind of see like this light bulb looking thing coming out of it, and it, you can turn up the amount of fuel. You get in there and it just burns, and it's a kerosene lamp. We used to use whale oil, but whaling was incredibly dangerous, and we almost made whales go extinct. Whale oil, it comes from their fat. Coal and iron, we had a huge supply of coal and iron is used to make steel. And they didn't understand the molecular, process of making steel, but what they knew is that you would pump a bellow. It's like an accordion-looking pump, and it pumps oxygen into the furnace, and the furnace heats up. And the bigger the bellow, the more heat you get. And what they noticed is the metal became shinier and harder, and they called it steel. So they slowly figured out you get a big bellow, you pump a ton of oxygen in there, you pump air, they didn't know it was oxygen. So today we know that Fe, iron, okay, the atom, is bonded to carbon, and that is how iron is naturally found. But when you heat it up, when you get it really hot and you blow air in there, the oxygen knocks the carbon off the chain, and the oxygen bonds with the iron, and you get steel. Now, it's not like all oxygen replaces the carbon. It's a slow process, so you can get weaker steel and stronger steel. So to give you a sense, this is Britain, and the island itself takes up about South Dakota to Oklahoma. I mean, Texas is bigger than Britain. And when it came to natural resources, we had coal fields as big as a country. I'll show you on the next map. So here's in purple the coal fields. Here's the iron. So it was very fortuitous that the iron and coal were really close together. So you throw down a steel mill in the area, you don't have long to travel, and you ship it out by train to wherever they need steel. But most steel went towards the cities to build skyscrapers and things like that, but that didn't happen until like the 1890s, 1900s, 1910. So here's what an oil well looked like. So you can see it's spraying oil. They struck oil and it's spraying everywhere. So now they have to cap it. And once they cap it, then they're able to put a rig in there to pump it out. Like they have to put it into a container. But right now it's just free flowing and they're getting sprayed with oil. It's pretty stinky too. It smells like rotten eggs. So this is in Texas. It would just dot the landscape. You'd have all these pumps just all over. And then here is an aerial view. This was probably taken in the 1920s. And California had a tremendous amount of oil, and they used to drill like right on the beach. So you see people playing in the water and then all these oil rigs going in the background. Here's what coal looked like. It's kind of like charcoal, but not charcoal. Charcoal is coal dust compressed together. But this is just you chip it, and it's a rock. And they'd ship it to steel mills to make steel. Or any kind of steam engine would burn it. So here's a coal mine and iron ore. So here's just a chunk of iron. It's not actually in the rock, but you'd find rock that looked like this, and you'd chip it, and within that rock you'd find little bits of this. Today, we've basically dug out all of our iron. So we reached a point where digging for iron and trying to make stuff out of it is more expensive than just recycling steel. So if a building is torn down, they recycle the steel and use it to rebuild the new building or build something else with it. Because, I mean, with metal, you don't really lose a lot of the material properties of metal if you heat it up and melt it and recast it. So here is a foundry. That's where they made steel beams and stuff. So by hand, this stuff right here is probably burning at 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So if this chain right here broke, these guys will either be dead or want to be dead. So we'll skip over that, skip that, and that ends this segment.